Look at that. Look at the sun serving me looks. Yes. What is up, my lovies? What's good? What's poppin' in the hood? Welcome back to my channel. Today is another episode of Bangtan Book Club. The idea behind Bangtan Book Club is that we read and review books that have inspired BTS. Today we're going to be talking about the iconic Demian by Hermann Hesse. Yo, when I read this, it's like when you read Carl Jung and suddenly Map of the Soul makes so much sense. When you read Demian, it's like I'm understanding the whole of Wings on a new level, and I'm like, how did so much of this album just go over my head? There was 3 things that really surprised me about this book. Number 1, she is skinny. Look, it's 130 pages. Literally you could read this in an afternoon. Number 2, it's so dark. The themes are very dark and mature, which the level surprised me. And number 3, it's so gay. Every single exchange between Demian and the main character, Emile Sinclair, I was just like,
are you gay? Are you gay by gay, day by day?
But come on, let's think more complexly about the story. So, Demian follows Emile Sinclair, this dramatic AF 13-year-old who literally thinks it's the end of the world whenever he does anything remotely bad. He meets the mysterious Max Demian, who's a few years older than him. Emile kind of gets intrigued by him, but he's not sure why. Max senses something different about Emile. And then they kind of become friends where Demian finesses one of Sinclair's bullies called Chroma. Ooh, look at that. Look at the sun serving me looks. Yes. Golden hour. Basically it follows Sinclair and various mentors throughout his life and him discovering what his purpose is and what is going on in that noggin of his. Like I said, he used to be so dramatic when he was younger. His idea of the world was like, you're either part of the world of good or you're part of the world of evil, but I can't decide because the temptation of evil world is. I was like, chill out, fam. It's okay. You lied once. Welcome to being human. Chill out. Then he goes to school and he's basically a massive hipster. Him and Demian are kind of like the outside of the school, but it's okay because they have each other. And then Sinclair moves away to a different school and then gets really depressed and then tries to act like the depression is nothing to do with the fact that he just really misses Demian. And then he starts drinking and becoming an alcoholic at like 16. He gets a girlfriend for 3 seconds who says literally less than 4 lines of dialogue. Maybe even no lines. Let me double check. Does she even say any words in this? Anyway, apparently this girl kind of looks like Demian and kind of looks like Demian's mom. Okay. And then he meets a hermit pianist called Pistorius. His whole purpose is just to introduce the idea of Abraxas. I got run over by Abraxas. Basically the idea of Abraxas is that it's God and the devil in one thing, showing that there needs to be light and shadow and there needs to be good and evil in everything. It's basically what Demian was talking about when he was trying to explain to Sinclair that you can't have just a world of good and a world of evil. You've got to have both in order to reach your full potential. The pacing of this book was a weird one. It's kind of just following Emile recounting his life and his run-ins with Demian throughout like 10 years almost. So Hesse really said Bildungsroman. So yeah, Emile is thirsting after Demian and then thirsting after Demian's mum for a second, Frau Eva. Out of nowhere, bing bam boop, the war shows up. I didn't even know when this book was set. So when this war literally pops out of nowhere, I'm like, oh, okay, so this must be the early 1900s then? Okay, cool. The last section of the book is just so rushed. He goes off to war and he's like on the battlefield in the trenches, about to die, wounded and tired. And then Demian appears to him. It's like, do you remember Chroma, the bully that I helped finesse? And then Sinclair's like, yeah. And then he's like, cool. If you ever need me, just look deep within yourself. Also, my mom told me to give you this. And then leans over and just kisses him on the lips and then bounces. Bye! And then that's the end. What a roller coaster of a story this was. Throughout this book, Demian is such a mysterious character that you're kind of wondering, is he real or is he just part of Emile Sinclair's subconscious. And the last scene really confirmed the fact that, like, is Demian even real? Is Beatrice, the girlfriend, real? Is the mom real? When reading Demian, there were so many links to BTS's repertoire. Like, it is everywhere. Demian is heavily inspired by Nietzsche and Carl Jung and has some Freudian elements in there as well. Wings is clearly a reference to Demian, but there's lots of things that I saw in Demian that I recognized from other BTS works. But I'm like, is that a reference to Demian, or is it just a reference to the original philosophers and psychologists that inspired this book? Let's just get on to the links to BTS, because that's why we're really here. Blood, Sweat and Tears is all about temptation. When I got to the line, the iconic Namjoon line, he too was a tempter.
He too was a tempter. He too was a link to the second.
Ooh, the
evil world with which I no longer wanted to have anything to do.
I get it now. He's talking about how Demian was a tempter like Chroma, but not quite the same, because Demian is not like the other boys. So the cover of this book, you've got like a bird and an egg, and then like two boys, right? One of the quotes from the book is that the bird fights its way out of the egg is the world. Who would be born must first destroy a world. The bird flies to God, that God's name is Abraxas. This is a quote that Namjoon literally says in one of the short stories of the Wings trailers. So the idea of this motif is basically saying that you've got to think out of the box, and then you realize that the box was not your whole world. The bird flies to Abraxas, which is this idea of realizing the good and the evil within someone's, and the evil within someone, and recognizing that that is just part of being a human. Who does that remind me of? The shadow and the ego need to be recognized so you can create your full individualized self? In Blood, Sweat and Tears, above the painting, there's that German quote that says, "Man muss noch Chaos in sich haben." Basically, you've got to have chaos within yourself to give birth to a dancing star. Or like, you gotta go insane to stay sane. It's all linked. In J-Hope's short film for the Wings album, the quote in the beginning is about Frau Eva, who's Demian's mum. Frau Eva is such an interesting character because she represents so many kinds of love. Like that first love that you have between like a baby and a mother. She also it gets a bit Freudian. Like Emile clearly has a weird romantic attachment to her as well, and it gets a bit confusing on like what kind of relationship that he actually wants to have with her. I think he just wants comfort from a motherly figure, and Frau Eva's just there to give it to him. Blood, Sweat and Tears. It's clear now from the music video that the statue is supposed to represent temptation, or Demian. Demian is described as being kind of statue-like at times. Emile says he looks like he's carved out of stone. Clearly that's representing Demian, and the kiss could be representing the kiss that happens at the end of the book, but I feel like it's more obvious that it's like him accepting the temptation, him giving into the evil, you know? So in Blood, Sweat and Tears, Jin plays the role of Sinclair, but then throughout the Wings album, each BTS member is actually playing the role of Sinclair within their individual songs at some point. There is literally endless links to Demian and Nietzsche and Carl Jung and everything in BTS's repertoire. So if I was to go into detail about every single thing, we would be here all day. It was such a journey rediscovering Wings, because Wings is an album that's perfectly telling 3 stories at once, and I don't know how it's managed to achieve this. So you have the first story, which is like the big hit Bangtan universe, the fictional storyline that runs through it. Jimin and the flowering arboretum, and J-Hope's mom abandoning him at the fairground carnival place. Obviously this is all fictional. And then you have number 2, Demian and the story of boys being tempted by evil, and the story of Demian infused within every single story and linked with the Bangtan universe in a way that's so seamless that if you didn't know anything about the book, Demian, you could completely understand the story as a Bangtan universe story. But if you know nothing about Bangtan universe and you know Demian, you completely understand the story through the eyes of Demian, the book. And then you also have the members' true, honest stories, like the reasons why they wrote the lyrics, the real life story. RM declaring that he hates himself and he's trying to learn how to love himself, and JK talking about his deep love for his members, and Sugar with piano. And that's perfectly explained as well, and you see how it relates to each member. And I'm like, how did they do that? How did they perfectly have so much packed within one album? Honestly, Wings will forever be the queen. She's never gonna be dethroned. Wings is just that album. And if you go and rewatch the short stories, they're works of art. The direction, the sound mixing is so good. I was so impressed by the sound mixing, which usually you don't really pay attention to this kind of thing, but when it's good, it's good. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Demian. What are we gonna give Mr. Demian? So we're gonna rank it on 4 different criteria. Number 1, big brain. What did I learn from it? How much new information about the world, literature, myself do I know? I would give that a 7.5 for big brain. Literally, I knew nothing about Nisha. And I learned so much, and I did a lot of research afterwards. Abraxas, I never heard of that before. And then we've got number 2, writing style. Did I like the way it was written? I would give that a 7. It was standard, it was good. Number 3, links to BTS. That's gotta be a 10 out of 10 because BTS literally are quoting the book in their album teaser trailers. And number 4, how much did I enjoy it? Very arbitrary, but let's be real, we read books to enjoy them, so I would give it a solid 7.5. I think it was a good book, but I did not love it as much as Into the Magic Shop. Oh, Into the Magic Shop was so good. That's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, hit the like button and the subscribe button, and comment below if you've read this book, what you thought about it. If not, go watch the Wings teaser trailers and short films and tell me what you think about them. The color temperature changing throughout this book is gonna bother me while editing, so I'm really sorry while I'm editing this. See you guys next time. Bye. J-Hope's mom abandoning him. J-Hope's mom abandoning